Hey again, everybody. So today I want to talk about showing up to things and what it takes to be there for for everything that goes on in our day-to-day lives, not just the good things, but also the bad things. And I wrote this down last night. I have a notes file on my phone that I just write down video ideas in when they strike me. And I wrote this down because, being in college, there are, of course, mornings, there are days where, you know, you don't want to go to class. You don't want to do much of anything. And those days come and go. I would say they are a minority of the majority or of the overall, scope of days that I have. But there are those days where you just really don't want to go anywhere and you don't want to do anything. And maybe you're a little burnt out, your social battery's low, your motivation isn't there. And not that we can count on motivation, because motivation is going to come and go. It's discipline that's going to get us up. And it's easy to forget that, but also putting that aside, I think being there for it or showing up is the majority of the work that it takes to get things done. And I say this because I would say the first step is always the hardest, right? And that first step is done every day. If we're trying to do something every day, if we're trying to work out every day, if we're trying to study every day, even just go to class, which we're already expected to be going to, but sometimes we can't quite get the motivation to get out of bed. But we need to be there for it. And maybe we don't need to. Maybe that's why it's hard to get out of bed. Maybe it's not a super pressing thing that is really grabbing us and we don't realize the importance of it, maybe, or something along those lines. But showing up and being there is the majority of what it takes for things to get done, for you to be successful in whatever you're doing. And this is something that I'm really trying to learn, that I'm really trying to hammer in to myself, because I think it's one of the number one things that I struggle with when it comes to learning new things and getting most things done. Is that I fall in love with the idea of something. And that first step, that initial leap of faith into it, is the hardest part. And that first step, until you've done it enough times, is hard to do every day. So to give an example of this, I really only recently have been getting pretty serious about my diet. Well, not so much diet, but about meeting a specific calorie count and protein count and going to the gym consistently and getting past my initial fear of public gyms and things like that. And this is not something where you do it the first time and then every time past that is super easy. It's not easy. Like it doesn't become easy at any point. You just get used to the difficulty. Your mind gets, used to the repetition. Your body gets used to being worked, and you get over that social fear. And it took me a little while for this to really kick in, because the first few times that I went to a public gym, I was pretty intimidated. I still am sometimes with some of the people that like you see there, because you see guys there that have been there for many years and they are, absolutely built. And you just kind of think like, man, like I'll never be there. Like, and you start to compare yourself to other people. You think you're doing everything wrong, which maybe you are. Maybe your form needs to be better, but don't be afraid to ask for tips. And that's kind of what I've learned. And it took me though to actually go and be there for that to be a possibility. Because if I didn't have the discipline or the initial spark of motivation to show up, I never would have learned, never would have gotten my form better, never would have, learned new exercises from people there and things like that. And also, of course, when it comes to academics and going to class and things like that, just showing up, you're going to receive, even if you're not really paying that much attention, just being there and hearing the words is going to help you retain the knowledge better. And I've definitely been guilty of this, of like, oh well, most of the slideshows or most of the material is all online. I can just look it over whenever I want to. I don't have to go to class, especially if it's not a class that they're keeping track of attendance for. But it's worth it. It's worth it to show up, because you're going to learn more, you're going to gain more by being there. And finally, I want to talk about this when it comes to your life overall, and especially other people. And many people, I would say the majority of people, don't show up. The majority of people would rather be home. They would rather be doing something else. They would rather be with somebody else, be by themselves. There's always somebody that would rather be somewhere else, right? But if you can be that person that only wants to be where you are, you will always want to show up. Because there's no other time like the present. So while you are there in the present moment and you've shown up, you've already done the majority of what needs to be done for you to be successful. Because without that initial step, you're not going to be in the position to make the other steps. So that's kind of my general thoughts on the topic. But to also share just some recent events, things going on. This past week, of course, I mentioned in one of my other videos last week that I had a little bit of an arm injury / back tweak, and I think it's from climbing. I've been climbing a lot more, and I think it's just a combination of a few things. So I've been going lighter on that. It's getting better, and I'm resting well and all that stuff. So on the road to recovery with that. And also, I had a weird moment last night. I was at the hot tub with a few friends and a new friend that I met in my rock climbing class. And we're all chilling there, and I had made the video a while back about dissociation. And of course, I had been at the gym like an hour or so before my pre-workout was at that point completely worn off. I was really tired. I was exhausted. And we're hanging out there, and there's quite a few people there. But I suddenly felt very overwhelmed with the amount of people there. And when that happens, I go pretty quiet. And so I just kind of sat there by myself, and I'm surrounded by people that I know well, but I didn't have any feeling to talk to them. And so it's kind of this weird thing. And so I guess this too is an example of being there for something. And am I glad I was there? Yeah. It was nice to just be surrounded by some cool people and relax a little bit. But at the same time, there was that thought of like, I kind of just want to go back home. Like, I kind of want to be by myself right now. And not that I had any obligation to go there in the first place, but still, I showed up. And so there's going to be times when you are not going to want to show up, or you feel that you have no responsibility to, or maybe this thing isn't going to really work out. You're not going to get this job. You're not going to pass this class. You're not going to meet somebody new. And you're going to have those thoughts of, well, even if I do go, like, what's going to happen? Like, is anything good really going to come out of this? But I can promise you, if you do show up, then there is a 100% more likelihood that something will happen. And without you actually being there, then it's always going to be a 0%. So yeah, something to think about. Something I've been thinking about. And so next time, even tomorrow, if you have a place to be there and just see what happens. It's your story. And every day we get to live out the next paragraph, the next page, the next chapter, whatever it might be. So keep that in mind. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.